The Act 5 Scene 5 soliloquy, heralded by William Shakespeare's Macbeth play of 1606, is one of the most masterful pieces of English literature to date, surely standing atop the pinnacle of written technique, boasting a seemingly ceaseless array of techniques such as imagery, metaphors, symbolism, foreshadowing, and pinpoint accurate emotional snapshots and examinations. Foremost, the themes of most prominent address entailed in this soliloquy, unchecked ambition and the relationship between cruelty and masculinity, are core aspects entailed throughout not only this soliloquy, but the rest of its respective act entirely. Touching on unchecked ambition, this theme depicts the extent to which protagonist Macbeth is willing to go in order to achieve his goal, and meet the aim of his vaulting ambition, as he refers to it. The aspect of this theme addressed in this soliloquy is Macbeth's acknowledgement that he's gone too far, almost as if it's a follow-up to his analogy earlier on in the play, where he described the consequences he would face if someone of his class fell victim to ambition on such a scale. There's no denying that Macbeth's wife, Lady Macbeth, was at the core of his ambition, and this soliloquy only reinforces that fact. The time when this soliloquy was spoken by Macbeth was one of utmost importance to him, as it was nothing short of a make-or-break moment. His sins were catching up to him, and he was fully aware that any misstep, even minor, would cost him his life. Only to add to this hardship, he found that Lady Macbeth had committed suicide, and his reaction, which kicks off the beginning of this soliloquy, "She should have died hereafter," expresses Macbeth's rush of emotions, essentially saying, why now of all times did this have to happen? His wife's death has laid rest upon him an intolerable burden, and it forces him to acknowledge the existence of an overwhelming force leading him to his fate, and this fate happens to be the direct opposite of the future he envisioned having with his wife prior to the murder of King Duncan. This illustrates just how quickly a tragedy involving a loved one can turn your life around and make it appear bleak and colourless, so to speak. Lady Macbeth was Macbeth's meaning, his purpose, and his reasoning, all in one. In an advantageous and manipulative way, yes, but even so, Macbeth wouldn't let it stand in the way of their love. This is a standout example of another theme prevalent in Macbeth, the relationship between cruelty and masculinity, which is apparent throughout the frequent dwellings on issues of gender throughout the play. However, specifically in this soliloquy, it represents the aftermath of what happens when Macbeth and his wife discuss manhood. Violence surely follows. This soliloquy also serves as a representation of the society and world which Shakespeare lived in at the time, a largely sexist society at that. Manipulation and such were viewed as female traits, which likely played a part in Shakespeare's inspiration to write such a character as Lady Macbeth. It also surely would have served as a bias for the viewing audience, adding to the realism and relativity of the play at the time. Moving on from themes, the major concept addressed within this soliloquy, time, fate, and war, is equally deserving of examination. Perhaps the most notable and important line in this soliloquy is, "Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow," which, enhanced by the technique of repetition, indicates that to Macbeth, another day in his shoes would be nothing more than a futile and monotonous crawl towards the inescapable end. This soliloquy is utilized by Macbeth to vent his mourning for his meaningless life, claiming that despite it being filled to the brim with events and action, the ending is the only deciding factor of whether it was meaningless or meaningful. Which ties in with the central question asked by this soliloquy. Does the end justify the means, or does the means justify the end? Looking back on Macbeth's means, or in other words, his life, he feels, despite the fact that while in the present it felt long, it feels much the opposite now, and he can only reflect on its seemingly hopeless and tedious nature. This embodies Shakespeare's belief that when you look back on life, all you're really seeing is a false, warped reflection of it. In addition, Shakespeare grasps this as an opportunity to show exactly what can happen to someone when they let go of their morals in pursuit of ambition. Another line of importance in regards to the central concept of this soliloquy, lighting the fool's way to dusty death, suggests that whatever we leave behind after our life just points the way for other foolish humans to follow, marching towards the ultimate end of death, only for them to do the same. Light exists only to guide us to the darkness of death. No light is everlasting. Yet darkness can be eternal, and it exists everywhere where light does not. All these thoughts within Macbeth's head are evidently taking a toll on him, and it's apparent that the only thing his position of power can't save him from is his own mind. However, this isn't just exclusive to Macbeth. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more, is used to compare the nature of Lady Macbeth, specifically Macbeth's interpretation of her character post-death, to a poor actor of minor importance. It's evident that Macbeth's new vision of her is that of someone whose emotions were only put on for a singular show, and now that it's over, it's conceivable that their ravings were just that of an idiot, her end a fitting one for a bad player. In terms of technique, this passage is a marvel. Each image births another, and it captures perfectly the mind of the speaker, Macbeth. The spoken words are devoid of any sane thinking, logic, or reasoning, yet the realism is simply remarkable. Enhanced by means such as repetition, which serves to further enhance the feeling of everlasting meaningless. It expresses his hopelessness for going any further, which is only reinforced by how it happens to be his final soliloquy, spoken to no other soul in particular. Up until this point, Macbeth has murdered, lied, and ruled with tyranny, and it seems to be purposely left out whether or not he feels any remorse for such. He is, however, fully aware of the emotional consequences of his crimes and the toll on his mental state. His life is becoming unbearable. His victim's ghost is haunting him, his guilt torturing him, and his wife has finally gone mad and committed suicide. This soliloquy is certainly an embodiment of his overflowing emotion. Shakespeare's desire was for the audience to witness this and understand the soon coming of Macbeth's life's conclusion. The analogy, "out, out, brief candle," carries out this desire by showcasing Macbeth's logic that days on earth are nothing but a brief candle and an ignorant move towards a fruitless end, emphasizing the futility of fragile human life. In a similar way, this video must soon come to an end eventually too. But as a final takeaway, I would like to finish with a summary of the most major points discussed. The themes addressed in this soliloquy are unchecked ambition and the relationship between cruelty and masculinity, shown by Macbeth's acknowledgement that his ambition is overshot and he's gone too far, and his realization of Lady Macbeth's true nature and its relationship with feudal English society at the time. The main concept of this soliloquy is time, fate, and war, illustrated through lines such as tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, lighting the fool's way to dusty death, and out, out, brief candle. And this soliloquy's purpose is to serve as an embodiment of Macbeth's overflowing emotion and to make clear the soon approaching conclusion of his life and the play. Personally speaking, this soliloquy resonates within me in the sense that I have such a high admiration for this accurate capture of feelings and mental distraught, which led me to make the decision of choosing this soliloquy for my examination in the end. Thank you for your kind attention, and have a good day.